It is 11:44 and 55 seconds on the 16th of March, and I'm going to explain my spiritual reading last night very quickly. Ooh, we lost the music. I was enjoying some spaghetti bolognese, which is the sacred dish of the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. String theory, hint. So I was reading while reading my pastor, The Gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and I got to page 202 by Prophet Bobby Henderson. You know, he invented the religion in 2005 as an attack against the American evangelicals that want to repackage creationism into something called intelligent design, where basically some omnipotent being created evolution. Yeah, sure, maybe evolution might have happened, but some kind of God created and controlled it. So there's a purpose to design, when actually everything is just one giant accident. So very quickly, at the end of the page, Bobby Henderson's QED, bitch, comma bitches. And I made a mistake, because he talks about the point 8 is past is the only thing that can have no cause, thus must be the first thing. The first thing I thought was being like the Big Bang. That got me thinking QED must stand for quantum electrodynamics, a theory invented by Richard Feynman in 1965, whereby Feynman described the interaction of photons and matter. You know, matter and antimatter can collide and annihilate each other to give a photon. But from that, Feynman developed an equation to give and predict the magnetic moment of an electron. That's just an electron's ability to align itself in a magnetic field. And the magnetic moment of an electron is 2.0023193063 times 10 to the minus 34. And in the equation to get the magnetic moment of an electron is also the Planck constant, but the Planck constant is one of the least accurate constant, physical constants for the universe. What's the recording? And it's funny that even though the Planck constant is so inaccurate, it still describes perfectly to the 10th decimal place the magnetic moment of an electron, because what I left out was that years and years later, when equipment became sensitive enough, experimental results showed that Feynman was correct to the 10th decimal place. The actual magnetic moment of an electron is 2.0023193063. And that's the most accurate prediction in science between theory and experiment. And it goes to show that the universe we live in is a mathematical structure. So then I was trying to link quantum electrodynamics to some kind of conscious entity and more empirical evidence that the Flying Spaghetti Monster is the one true possible omnipotent being in the universe, as opposed to Allah, the man in the beard in the sky, the man with the beard in the sky, Buddha, Jujamba under the Jawambas, Richard Dawkins says, or Russell's teapot that orbits the sun. You know, all gods are invented. They're just gobbledygook. So, on that note, we went from Richard Feynman to quantum electrodynamics to the magnetic moment of the electron, to the Planck constant, to Max Planck, who invented it, to Max Planck was friends with Einstein. When he first saw Einstein's field equations, he understood the relevance of them and really purported that they were significant and really helped Einstein. They were always lifelong friends. But in 1915, that summer, Albert Einstein hung out with a prominent mathematician named David Hilbert. David Hilbert also published shortly after their meeting some field equations that were in keeping with Einstein's field equations, but they didn't kind of argue over who came up with it first, because they were good friends. That's what friends do. Now, it's interesting that David Hilbert spent about a year or two trying to differentiate the Boltzmann equations. They're equations for thermodynamics, for the movement of electrons, or not electrons, maybe molecules in suspensions, to make it quite simple. And it's on that note that Boltzmann came up with this idea of the Boltzmann brain. It's this idea that when the universe first exploded 13.7 billion years ago, plus 100 million years, that when those particles were in a superposition, maybe there was some coherence and we could have some kind of quantum field that's a self-aware self-entity. That's kind of like God. But in terms of quantum physics and all these links to the Flying Spaghetti Monster, you know, string theory, and we won't bother to link that to QED because that gets a bit tangly, like noodles. But string theory is like noodles. I mean, am I still recording? So string theory is like noodles. How's my battery? Okay, very quickly. String theory is like noodles, so that's proof that the Flying Spaghetti Monster is real. But also part of string theory is the Calabi-Yau manifold, which looks like a meatball. For example, if space-time has 11 dimensions and the Calabi-Yau manifold maybe fold up space-time to the Planck scale, the Calabi-Yau manifolds capture some of those extra dimensions. And tell me, does that not look like a meatball that's round? I don't see chunks of cartilage or mechanically separated beef sticking out of it, but there is some connections. And, you know, if you put into Google Images string theory, which I did my search query, string theory, on the results, the 165th image is the Holy Noodle Master, the Flying Spaghetti Monster. And here he is here in the book. You know, he created the universe in a drunken moment. And because it's the 165th page, here it gets a little bit weird now, we're back to coincidence. I've gone to page 165, and lo and behold, it's the Genesis story. It talks about what the church did to Galileo. You know, Galileo thought that and knew that, understood that the earth went around the sun, the moon around the earth. But the church at the time, them being moronic, dogmatic morons, thought that the earth was the center of the universe. Well, lo and behold, no surprise, it's not. So because he mentions the creation myth and religion, and that's the whole basis of why he created this new religion, like any other religion that are created, you can see how everything is connected in the universe, from the Big Bang to string theory to Calabi-Yau manifold to quantum electrodynamics to Richard Feynman to all these people. Everything is linked. So for me, not being, oh, there's a noodle! Wow, proof that the Noodle Master was here. It's a bit hard. It's still good though. It's my religious sacrament, like taking bread at the altar. So it touches my noodly appendage that I've linked all this very concisely and perfectly coherently and logically. If only other religions were so empirical. So when I die, hopefully, instead of the infinity to nothing, it's like when I don't have an electron, when I don't have like a functional brain state because of meaningful electron transfer, more than likely there's the infinity of nothingness. I'm not going to go to heaven and hang out with Buddha, Mindy, my dog, when I was 10, and my grandmother. I'm going to go to a place with a volcano that escorts beer, a factory that makes strippers. Hopefully they're not virgin strippers, because that'd be a lot of work to train. But, you know, the Muslims think that heaven has, like, wine for eternity and virgins, so I like strippers. So, yeah, that's my take on religion and the universe. Did I exhaust you? Because I often exhaust myself. That was perfectly coherent and logical, right? I like quantum physics and our universe. Our universe is a lovely place to share with lovely people. Supposedly. That's the end of my religious studies for tonight. We're listening to Armin van Buuren on TotalKiss.com. Nice progressive house.